Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got an interesting show set up for you. All right. Yep, it's time for the showdown. It's time for the Vols versus Bama score prediction. And oh boy, third Saturday in October, it's the biggest there is. And man, we need this win. This would be big. To go down and beat them in Tuscaloosa, which is almost never done, would really be something.
Oh boy, is this great!
And I think it's going to be a good old-fashioned shootout.
Say when.
Exactly. Now let's get into this game. All right, let's take a look at Alabama. Of course, they're 6-1, and they've beaten, of course, MTSU. They did get beat by Texas, and that was at Tuscaloosa. So that's a little bit of hope for us right there. USF, this is where Milroe didn't play, and they barely won that game. That game was closer than it should have ever been. Then they beat Ole Miss, which I thought Ole Miss should win that game. I really thought they would, and it was at Ole Miss. Then they whooped up on Mississippi State. They got past Texas A&M, and that was at College Station. And then they almost let Arkansas come back and beat them, which would have just been a shocker. Now, as you look at these last two games right here, 26-20, 24-21, those are two games where Milroe didn't run. He couldn't run, I don't think. And, you know, where he was running, they did pretty well with the exception of the Texas game. And he didn't play in the USF game, remember that. Now, I've been talking about this a little bit this week. There was the rumor that he got injured back in early October, and it's not been confirmed one way or the other, but his numbers have dropped dramatically, so much so that I thought, you know what, let's put it in a chart because I want to see if this makes sense. And it's real important to remember that these are positive rushing yards for Jalen Milroe, but remember that the sacks are included in this. So these numbers may not look that high, but if he's got, you know, as many sacks as he's had, and this guy's been sacked a bunch, those numbers are pretty good because a sack counts against your rushing. So it's hard for quarterbacks to have real high rushing numbers, but he had real good ones, 48, 44, 28, and 69. Then right here on October 5th, there was a rumor of an injury. And then the next two games, -31, -19. So that just makes no sense whatsoever as far as this chart's concerned. I mean, how does that happen? How do you go from 4 straight positives, and this last one right here was really positive, and then negative? So the key to this game, to me, would be the Vols really putting pressure on Jalen Milroe, not allowing him to run and really making him throw the ball. We need to stop the run, which we should be able to do. Texas A&M had no trouble stopping them.
Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
And make Milroe beat you with his arm. But he can. He is capable of beating you with his arm because he can throw some really nice long bombs. That's actually what he's best at. So what we've got to do is put pressure on him because remember, to throw a ball that far, you've got to have time to sit back there in the pocket and wait for that receiver to get down the field a pretty good ways. And with our edge rushers, I don't think he's going to have as much time as he thinks. And if he's not as elusive and not as quick and not able to take off and run, we don't have to worry about him taking off quite as much. So I'm bringing James Pierce. I'm bringing Tyler Barron. I'm bringing Omari Thomas up the middle. Joshua Josephs, any of these edge rushers. Omar Norman-Lott, I believe, is going to be back in the game. I'm bringing so much pressure on him that it's ridiculous. And I'm not going to let up. I'm going to do it the entire game. I'm going to try to make his life as difficult as possible in that pocket because I believe he will make mistakes if we do that. I think he's capable of throwing in 1, maybe 2 interceptions, which could completely change the whole complexion of the game. As you know, turnovers are really important. A lot of times they dictate the outcome. So I'm going to put as much pressure on him as I possibly can. Now, what they're going to try to do is stop our run. I don't think there's any question about that. And there are 2 ways of being able to deal with that. First of all, we could have our guy, Joe Milton, throw the ball well and our receivers help him out. But also, if Joe Milton decides to run, that could change things as well because it's really hard to stop a fast quarterback. And Joe Milton can run 21 miles per hour, and he probably runs a 4.5, 4.6 40. So he's a guy that once he gets going, he's really hard to stop. You saw what he did to the Texas A&M guys in the second half when he decided to run. And he ran through this linebacker. I mean, just literally ran through him. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And actually, I'm going to show you a little clip on YouTube where he discussed it. And Bull from Blue Chip Breakdown actually is the one that told me about it. And I'll show you the clip. And before we get started, I want to give a shout out. This is TPL Tennessee, and they've just gotten started. And this was 1 day ago. I'm going to go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Well, I've got to sign in. I'll do it on my phone because I'm doing this through Safari.
No, speaking of running people over,
Yes,
you ran a couple people over, one of their best linebackers, I think. That got everyone like,
Okay, so Joe, tell us the build up to the run over. Like, you already told me, but I feel like everyone should know. Okay. What did you see?
For sure. Well, before that play, a couple plays before that, number 45 was talking a whole bunch of trash to me, trying to get me out my game. And I told him, when I catch you, I'm gonna drop you.
Mm-hmm.
And
don't drop him.
And we was running to the sideline. I knew I had the first already, so I was trying to get out of bounds so I can get the next play. And I just saw a 4 and a 5, and I said, bet I'm just gonna run through him. So I did. And when I got up, I said a little trash talk, but that's
what
different.
do you guys even trash talk? We talked about this once though.
So anyway, I thought that was a very interesting interview. And it sounds to me like when he wants to knock somebody down, and he's talking about a linebacker here. You're not talking about some little 170-pound cornerback. He took out a Texas A&M linebacker. So, you know, at 235 pounds, 6'5", if he decides he wants to run through you, there's a lot of guys he can do that to. And I'm looking for him to do that tomorrow at 3:30 in Tuscaloosa, because if he can run, he absolutely can run. If he decides he wants to run, it changes the whole complexion of the game. Now they've got to account for him. They can't focus in on those running backs, and I think our running game will flourish. Absolutely will take off, and we can win this ball game. I think those are the two key things we've got to do. We've got to put a ton of pressure on Milroe, because I don't think he's 100%, and we got to get Joe Milton cooking, running the ball, because I think if he'll do that, that'll get him pumped up, get the whole team pumped up. It will definitely get the team pumped up. And we'll get that momentum that we need, because they're going to have the momentum with the crowd. You can count on it. This is the one game that I think Alabama will be really, really up for, because we took them out last year. We kept them out of the playoff, and there's a big revenge factor down there. And I've talked to enough Alabama YouTubers that they are looking at this game hard, and they can't wait for us to get down there. And when we come down there, oh, yeah, we're coming.
You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Exactly. It's going to be an absolute knockdown, drag-out dogfight. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Now, as far as the score prediction, I'm going to go way out on a limb here. Nobody is picking the Vols. Nobody whatsoever. I showed you the video yesterday where all the experts are saying we can't win. There's no chance unless Alabama, literally lays down. They're going to beat us. But I think we can beat them. I think they've got a weakness at quarterback that we need to exploit. I think that if Joe Milton saw in the second half that he can become a runner, I think that changes our offense dramatically, and it will get him going, and it'll get the team going. Our defense has been playing really well. Tons of pressure on the quarterback. We've done it to Spencer Rattler. We've done it to Max Johnson. And Rattler's pretty darn hard to catch. He is a true dual threat, and we took care of him. So if we can get this guy, and he's very sackable, I'll show you the number of sacks that he's got. Right here, 26. Only KJ Jefferson has more. That is a lot of sacks, and that's what we do best. I think we've got like 24 sacks for our team. And you can see Joe's only been sacked 8 times. So I think we can get to the quarterback. I really do. We've proven it all year long, and they're not good at protecting the quarterback. They've got a bunch of young guys on that offensive line. They're talented, but when you put true freshmen and redshirt freshmen and sophomores in there, sometimes they have a tough time in the SEC. It's a very different world when you're playing in the SEC as opposed to playing high school ball where you're an All-American or a 5-star.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Exactly. It's a different world. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I've got us winning this ball game 24-20. And I know I'm probably wearing some orange-colored glasses. We don't play well on the road. This team certainly doesn't. We struggled against Florida. But I think Cooper Mays will help us a lot with that. I think he'll get our offensive line squared away and get our protections right and give Joe enough time to either make a good solid throw or to take off. And I think our running game will be solid. We need to have a good running game, something we've done great. something we've done really well this year. Jalen Wright has been tearing it up, and Jabari Smalls, and of course, Dylan Sampson. All three of those guys have been doing a fantastic job running the ball. We're averaging 5-6 yards, 230 some odd yards against Texas A&M, which had the best front seven in the country. So I think we can run on Alabama to some extent. If it wasn't at Tuscaloosa, I'd feel pretty darn good about this game. This is going to be tough, but I think we're going to somehow pull it off. It's just a gut feeling is all it is. 24-20.
Good answer. Good answer.
Could it go the other way? Of course. I know that, but I'm going to stay positive about it because I think this is the weakest Alabama team we've gone up against in a long, long time. This is a flawed team. Their quarterback's not 100%. I think we got a shot at beating them, and we might just very well pull this thing off, and it would shock the world. I promise you, nobody thinks we can beat them. I don't care what they say. They don't think we can. We'll see. All right, folks, we're only 24 hours away or less than that, or less than. So I know everybody's excited, the whole town of Knoxville all over the place. And, and look, we'll have the answers at 3:30. Either Joe plays well. Even if we lose and Joe plays well, that I'm going to be able to live with that. If he plays very poorly, we're going to be hearing the word Nico chanted a lot. I hope that's not the case because I want Joe to succeed, and he's got the skills to do it, and he just got himself a template how to do it. Run the ball. And I'll be doing a reaction video after the game. It'll probably be, a 3:30 game. It'll probably be around 7:30, but I'm going to definitely do a reaction to the game, which hopefully is a positive one. I may be up here not feeling so good after that if we lose, but so be it. Either way, I'm going to be here. So be sure to check that out. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and all our opponents, all that good stuff, and the SEC, of course. And if you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit this little button. It helps me out, and I would appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything. And right over here is the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.